Hey, welcome. This week on the World's Worst Podcast, Devin gets sick. Oh, God, does he get sick? In a blizzard, no less. I feel way better about myself in graduate school. And then we get really philosophical about the selling of souls. And then we discuss what we're going to watch next week as we continue the idea of talking about movies and TV shows. So that's it, really. I mean, I could go on, but I think you probably want to kind of get to it. So I'll just let you know that music this week for the intro comes from Northbound. The song is called Forward. Let's get to it, shall we? It's the World's Worst Podcast.
How are you doing, man?
Sorry. Oh, boy. I don't know. It was really annoying. On Monday, I woke up a bit raspy and coughy, and it hasn't been paired with any other kind of illness stuff. So it's just this annoying cough that comes up every once in a while. And I'm not quite sure what to do about it. It's kind of annoying.
There might not be any, because it can take weeks for certain viruses and germs to fully germinate in your body, depending on your diet and all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
There's a strain of the flu that takes like 4 weeks from the time it enters your body till you actually presents, or maybe it's 4 weeks that it lasts for, or 3 weeks. Anyway, I retract my statement.
Okay.
Anyway, it can take a long time for things to A, present, and B, to actually fully present or to go away.
Right, yeah. No, I know. It's annoying.
No, I understand. I have a similar health thing to talk about today.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know. You want to just get to it?
So, Monday we had a blizzard here.
Yeah, actually, can I tell a quick story about that?
Sure.
So I work remotely for the company that I was working with before I moved out here for school, and when I logged in on Monday, it was just crazy, and I got an IM from one of my fellow supervisors saying, "Hey, welcome to the chaos." I was like, what the hell is going on? And then I see all the emails from the day about all of the people who called in because they couldn't get into work because of the snow, and that we're closing like 2.5 hours early because we're low on staff and all this stuff. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. How has it been? All right for you?
Well, okay, so we had the storm, right?
Yeah.
And this is actually going to be a bit of a long story.
Sure.
At 5, so you remember we had the podcast on Sunday.
Yep.
And I told you I was having a lot of pain in my chest.
Yeah.
So day goes on, pain keeps getting worse, pain in my side keeps getting worse. I lay down for like 6.5 hours, 7 hours, and did not sleep a wink, just as much as of a fetal position as I possibly could get in. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and to the point that I have no way to the hospital because the storm had just started at 5:30 in the morning.
Oh, jeez.
And there's no way to get to the hospital. I have literally zero monies. All I have is, I don't want to explain what I have, but I have zero monies, and no one can get me. No one can do anything. So I call an ambulance, and the ambulance comes and brings me to the hospital. My heartbeat was way over 100.
Oh, man.
My blood pressure was huge. It ended up, I can't even tie my shoes or put socks on. I can't do anything. So I spend I spent a long time in the ER. One of the possibilities I think was my gallbladder. Well, the program for a gallbladder, like a stone or some other problem with your gallbladder, is you can't eat or drink. And I'm just laying down and I can barely keep any water down. So already while I was trying to sleep, so I'm severely dehydrated. I'm in the hospital for like 6 hours. I get a CAT scan and ultrasound. I had to have a 30-minute ultrasound. So my stomach hurts already, right? Not my stomach, but my right side and my chest and my back. And I have to put this probe on me hard, so I have to deal with someone poking me where it hurts for 30 minutes with this probe. And they take blood and urine, and turns out that my duodenum was inflamed. Now, go ahead.
That word sounds familiar, but what is it?
I'll explain it, yeah.
Okay.
Duodenum.
It's fun to say.
It is. It's an incredibly important and complex thing. What it is it provides enzymes, and it facilitates other organs to provide enzymes. So what you have, if you envision this, please, you have your stomach, and then connected directly to your stomach is the duodenum. Now the duodenum itself produces various enzymes, but connected to the duodenum is the gallbladder through a tube. The gallbladder feeds into the duodenum enzymes, and then your pancreas feeds into the duodenum for your enzymes, for some more enzymes. Inside the duodenum, it's super leafy, and as the waste, it's super leafy inside the duodenum.
Okay.
Yeah, you should look at a sheep's stomach once, and so as food passes through the duodenum, it gets coated with these enzymes, and it enters into the small intestine,
right?
And where it starts to be more digested. When it becomes inflamed, digestion can stop, or be altered drastically. Right. So, so then they shoot me up with a bunch of drugs when they figure out it's just that. Just that.
Just that, yeah.
Yeah. I had some other unrelated things, like I had severely irritated my esophagus and the lining of my stomach.
Eee.
And, yeah. So then, after like 7 hours, I think it is, they released me, 6 or 7 hours. And it's blizzarding outside.
Yeah. At this point, this is like, because time-wise, so I clocked in for work just before 8 p.m. What time was this when you got out of the hospital?
Noon or 1.
Okay, so yeah, like right in the middle of it.
Yep.
Oh,
and I forgot my hat. Thankfully, I had my jacket, but I couldn't. So it wasn't that cold, but the wind was so powerful that with the sleety snow stuff,
Yeah.
and the amount of it, like it's hitting your face, so you can't keep your eyes open for long. And so I'm stumbling to try to get across the road to where the buses are. I have no idea I have only the vaguest idea if the buses are going to run.
Right.
Luckily, I see them, so I wait. I get on the bus. We have a really hard time getting downtown. And I find out while on this bus that 99% of the buses are actually, that's probably not correct, but because there's so few buses, but
a high percentage of buses.
Yeah, a very high percentage are stuck.
Oh, jeez.
Are completely stuck. I find out that there's only 2 buses that aren't stuck. The one I'm on, and luckily the one I need to get home.
Oh my God.
And my dad was sleepy when I tried to explain this to him the day of. He just couldn't get it why it would be dangerous to walk in this kind of thing, because when you can't see. I ended up stepping off the bus into the storm drain.
Ooh.
Grate onto the grate with those flat ones, not into the side ones, and the snow was up to my knee in that specific spot, almost halfway up my leg. Excuse me, halfway up my leg.
God.
Yeah, and like it had been pushed. Of course, I mean they had been trying to plow.
Sure,
but like I couldn't tell stepping off of there onto the bus because it looked so close to where it was ground level, sidewalk level, and so that's my story.
Oh my God!
So I'm still sick with this. And I've had to be like eating for the first 3 days. Like I would eat like half a loaf of bread, not loaf. Excuse me.
Have a slice
of bread. That's all I could eat. And I'd have to like pinch off pieces and eat it and keep, because it hurt too much to be willing. Like it hurt too much and to try to get up to clean dishes, to stay clean dishes.
Right.
And I couldn't keep anything. I couldn't eat anything anyway. Like I wasn't hungry. I had to like force myself to eat that. And so I think Tuesday comes around, Wednesday comes around, and my dad comes to give me some soft food. So I've basically been like living off of fruit and Boost and actually pumpkin pie, surprisingly, is one of the few things that didn't just automatically hurt my stomach.
Oh, it's that time of the year.
Yeah, well, I didn't think about this because canned fruit has, vitamin C, citric acid. Yeah. And so when you're putting that into your body, that's going to hurt, exposed places. But like, I don't think pumpkin pie is particularly high in vitamin C.
I don't know. I usually think of pumpkin pie as being particularly high in whipped cream, but that's kind of a separate issue.
Pumpkin is high in nutrition, but not high in necessarily high in vitamin C. But so I'm able, like, some function has started happening with my intestines, and I'm able to eat more. It would take me, yesterday or day before, it took me 4 hours to finish a can of soft pears.
Wow.
So like I would eat at 8. By the time noon came around, I was done with the pears and it was already time to eat. So I was constantly trying to feed myself. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, like, I would eat at 8. And by the time noon came around, I was done with the pears and it was already time to eat. So I was constantly trying to feed myself. So, like, I would eat at 8. And by the time noon came around, I was done with the pears and it was already time to eat. So I was constantly trying to feed myself. yeah, that's my overly long story of my health issue.
Jesus, man.
You know,
That's some serious shit. So, like, how long is it expected to sort of continue?
well, I'm a lot better. The main concern is if anything ulcerated,
Right.
but it isn't. It's getting better, and so I'm not worried about it. I still need to go in for an endoscopy to see how my stomach, esophagus, and
Esophagus, yeah. Larynx is the voice box.
yeah, and my duodenum are doing it.
Duodenum.
It's an incredibly important thing.
And it's incredibly fun to say. I'll
really
make that
is.
point again.
It sounds
Duodenum.
familiar to you because it was
Duodenum.
it was a fairly funny bit on Family Guy about it.
Well, I don't know. My actual experience of Family Guy is fairly limited.
Oh, well, then I have no idea why it sounds familiar.
But maybe I did see that and I just don't remember it. It is distinctly possible. Again, yeah. What knowledge I have is not even close to encyclopedic or anything like that. So,
yeah, mine's incredibly limited.
maybe that's for the best.
Yeah, the only thing I liked about that show was Stewie.
Yeah, like it was definitely, it definitely had its moments, particularly early in its run, and it, certainly for when it debuted and the age I would have been then, still late junior high, early high school, like mid 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but yeah. I'm not going to get into that.
It's not particularly interesting to me either.
Yeah.
The Family Guy discussion, I mean.
Oh, yeah. The period of one's life between junior high and high school tends to be fairly eventful one way or the other.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I wasn't referring to that one. So.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess in comparison, my week was pretty good. I don't know. I had a good week. I would really say I had a very good week. That I was not expecting it to be good because so on Monday we got the midterms back for one of my classes. And the grades had been posted. So, I mean, if you remember, this midterm was like 3 weeks ago. Almost 4 now, I think. And it just took a while to get graded. And but my professor posted the scores on, I think, Thursday. And I think I was finally brave enough to look on Friday. Maybe Saturday. And I got the grade I was expecting to get because
that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, exactly. No one says that in a good way. Essentially, so I got essentially a B+ on it.
Oh my god, that's good.
Which isn't bad. It's just I know 100% that this is not the best that I am capable of doing. I did not give myself enough time to complete the midterm. I procrastinated way too much. Like, I had a good plan for the time I was going to spend to do it, and then I just didn't follow that plan at all.
Please tell me you're not frustrated about this. Like a B+ on your first semester or whatever in grad school. I mean, that's.
So the problem is this, and yeah, I know. I realize now that I'm complaining about a B+, but here's the difference. There are 4 assignments, major assignments in that class, and that midterm is a significant part of that. And I am hopefully looking to get into the PhD program at this school, which is also highly competitive. So in the 30 credits that I have in this master's, I really need to get straight A's.
How many credits is this class then?
It's 3 of those 30.
Oh, so 10%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so it's like I need to make sure, or at least I need to not let myself coast, or
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Also, I just felt like it was, and so this was the thing on Monday when the professor talked to us about the midterms, is that the first thing she said was, I know all of you can do better than this, because the class average was a B. And here's the other thing too. In grad school, like, if you get a C is the equivalent of a D, essentially. So like you have a lot less room to sort of move around in. And
right.
But yeah, the first thing the professor was saying was, yeah, I know all of you can do better. And it's there in class, it wasn't there on the midterm. And she was totally right. And actually, after class that day, I usually end up staying after for a bit of that class, because one of the other students, it's a 9-person class as well, so like everybody really knows each other. But one of the other students who is also, like me, doing the thesis option for the master's, and she's actually already working as a graduate assistant with the presumption of going into the PhD program, potentially here, or she's started to think maybe of applying other places. But she's really cool, because she usually hangs around after classes and asks professors big important questions about, like, looking ahead to PhD, and what the sort of market is like for communication professors and all that stuff that I sometimes forget to ask. So I usually hang around, listen to conversations, and chip in where I can. And Monday was another one of those days, just sort of talking about stuff. And as I ended up leaving the class, it happened that my professor and I were going the same way for a significant period of time, out of the building, and then to the nearby parking lot, and then I was going to continue on to my apartment, to the sort of road to my apartment. And so there was this kind of extended period where it was like, I guess we should probably talk. I mean, I addressed it right away. Like, I realized what was happening, like, 5 feet out of the door. And so I start a conversation, and she was like, I really expected more from you on that midterm. And I was like, yep, that was not what I'm capable of. And we had a really good conversation about it. And one of the problems I was having with how the midterm went and how I felt it went, irrespective of my actual letter number grade, was this concern that maybe I was in the wrong place. Maybe I was sort of trying to achieve something beyond my station, or so to speak, in life. And in this conversation with my professor, I realized, and she also told me, that no, like, I can do this. And it's just, I needed that reminder, because it had been, the mid-semester period had been rough, because I was having trouble focusing on, getting my work done, and instead procrastinating and watching bullshit on YouTube that, like, doesn't matter. It's so dumb. The stupid shit. But I like wake up in the morning, and outside of doing some of my reading for class, I just had no energy. And I ended up coming to a separate realization that my desk chair is evil. Because if I get up in the morning and I sit in this comfy ass chair, I will not do shit until I absolutely have to. And the thing was, and this was true, I mean, I haven't had this chair that long, but like going back to when I was in undergrad, I had set up places for myself where I could relax and while away hours if I so chose. But the difference was, it was easier for me to achieve the standards necessary then than it is now. And so when I absolutely have to isn't soon enough for the stuff I'm doing now. And so this week in particular, I took it upon myself to go onto campus every day, and instead of doing work in my apartment, doing work in the study room for master's students in my building. And, immerse myself again in the academic environment. Because I think that's the other thing, is that when I'm just here in my apartment, like, whatever. I'm just a guy in an apartment with a computer watching bullshit on YouTube. It doesn't matter. I have a job, right? I'm not well off in any financial sense, but I have enough money to live. And so it's easy to sort of forget about these other larger goals and just sort of lose myself in the moment of this dumb guy on YouTube saying dumb things, so to speak. And so, but when I'm on campus, like around professors and my classmates and in that environment, like, I totally want to do that. And so there's just this weird disconnect where if I when I walk off campus, I'm just in the afterglow of academia, and it's wonderful. And then I get home, and it's like, well, I guess I'm here now, and it just goes away to a certain extent. So yeah, I'm working on that, but I don't know. It was more, yeah. You had a crisis of biology. I had a crisis of psychology. There we go. That's the fucking word I was looking for. Goddamn. But yeah, I think things went really well this week. I also had we are getting very close in my research team. We're finalizing the design of our studies and preparing to submit to the Institutional Review Board, or IRB, for approval for us to actually work with real people, which is a very important process, but for our purposes, not huge.
What do you mean?
Well, so, I mean, the whole reason the IRB exists as an institution is because, going back to the early 1900s and the structure of academic study in the U.S., there were experiments, even into the 1950s, with some of the famous work by Stanley Milgram in psychology, where people were essentially made to believe that they were inducing severe electric shocks to a person in another room, and other experiments which didn't care necessarily explicitly for the mental or physical health of participants, not in the evil Nazi doctor way, but in a seemingly more benign and yet actually still serious way. So
are you saying in America or in your school specifically?
No, in the U.S. This is a national thing.
Yeah, because we did things that were equally like evil Nazi doctor things.
Yeah, and I just mean that. Yeah, and yeah, like the other big example from the from like the 1920s, I think, was the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, where essentially it was a study of the African American population in Tuskegee, Alabama, who had syphilis. And by the time this study was happening, we had a cure for syphilis. And instead, what this researcher did was interviewed a bunch of people who had syphilis and just tracked what happened to them to fully understand what syphilis does to a person.
Yeah, that's a really famous one. Some of the ones that are less famous are like giving radioactive isotopes to babies to see what happens to the human body to study cancer. So we've done some pretty horrible shit.
I admit I had not heard of that one, but
we've done. Yeah, there's lots of these things.
But yeah, so the ultimate point is,
sorry,
as a result of all of that horrible shit, The institutional review boards were set up at all universities, and anytime you're doing research that requires human participants, which for communication is every time, you have to submit a proposal to the IRB. Now, for a lot of that stuff, there are various levels of review that are required, from the minimal to much more complete. And what we're doing is just a survey, essentially. The only difference between what we're doing and just a straight information gathering survey, which requires the lowest level of IRB review, is that we have a number of different versions of the survey that vary survey contents to examine the differences that we're trying to examine. So essentially what we're doing is we want to understand what kind of cues or elements of online reviews affect people's attitudes towards the credibility of the reviewer and the product being reviewed. Just in a larger sense, to understand what cues in a computer-mediated communication context affect people's judgments. And so essentially the different versions, all we're ultimately asking any participant to do is look at some messages, some reviews of a fictional hotel, have the participant read those messages, and then rate those messages essentially on how credible they think they are, how much they agree with them, and their attitude towards the product. Just that it's participants will be randomly assigned to see different specific reviews that vary in specific ways. And so our goal is to then look at the responses to these surveys and compare these different groups to see if these variations in the reviews produce specific results. But really, it is just a survey. So we are, we just have to go through and fill out a form for the IRB. It's like, well, it's 14 questions, but some of the questions have multiple letter parts. But a lot of it is like, describe your study, and what kind of participants are you going to be using? Do you have any financial connections to any group that is involved in the study? And stuff like that. Just basic yes, no, and short, few sentences or short paragraph just to describe what we're doing. And it's a pretty simple thing, but it is also, because of the nature of the IRB and what it is kind of this slightly intimidating thing. Because they control all, they have just sort of all broad-reaching power to shut us down or, do all sorts of things. And I mean, not that we have any reason to expect action against what we're doing, because it's super benign. But there's still that element of just... uncertain, especially for me since I've never done this before. This element of uncertainty and like what's going to happen?
Jesus.
Yeah,
sorry.
But
it's
it's
my
fine.
dad was just texting me to alert me that you got home. So.
Okay.
Well, it startled me too, so I said Jesus. So I interrupted your
okay.
story.
I thought you were like remarking on the strange sort of concern I have about this IRB review process when I should really have no reason to do so.
No.
Which I would not fault you for doing.
No. I have no opinion on that.
Okay. By the way, it is now snowing here.
Oh, wow.
Big fluffy flakes flying through the sky.
Apparently it's cold across the country.
Yeah,
relatively speaking.
It's been getting cold here too. I think now actually, because we've had a few days where snow has fallen like this, including Halloween. But this is probably the first day, if we get significant snowfall, that stuff will stick, and I might have to actually scrape off my car or something. Or actually, technically, the style of this building is there's these 2 levels of apartments, and they all open out just onto a balcony or the front door. There's like no interior hallways in these little buildings. And so, being on the second floor, I have this cement walkway, sort of patio thing or whatever. And I am responsible for keeping the area in front of my apartment clear of snow and ice. So, it might be time to get all anal about that now, finally. I don't know. They provided me with a shovel, which was very nice of them.
Nice. I have a question here. Since I made a very damning and very, a big sort of claim, should I find any, reference for it?
Oh, about, the radiation babies?
Yeah, yes, for the radiation babies.
I mean, you could. That probably wouldn't hurt. But, again, the larger point is, irrespective of that specific example, there are plenty of well-documented examples, including the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, which is if you type that into Google, you'll find all you need to know. And the work of Stanley Milgram in the 1950s.
Right on.
Not nearly as Milgram in particular, not Nazi doctor evil, but still we probably shouldn't do it quite like that anymore.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't
putting your tinfoil conspiracy hat on and
yeah, exactly. Out. Yeah, because there's literally dozens of unethical human experimentation in the U.S. Oh shit! Deep breathing really hurts. So, but I just wanted to make sure. Normally, I don't make those kinds of claims if I don't have things immediately available. So,
sure, that's fine.
But, I've been reading, I count it as reading, but I've been listening to Anathem. From Anathema, it's an alteration of Anathema by Neil Stevenson. He wrote the classic cyberpunk book, Neuromancer. Anyway, it's really, really good. It's hugely good. The only problem I kind of have with it is that it's does what a lot of literature does, or a lot of new literature having to do with a new world. It's a lot, or a world different than the Breeders. It's a lot of vocabulary dump.
Right. Yeah.
And normally I try to pay attention hard, but with this, there's just so much that even common words that we use are altered, that I just try to let it flow through me, and I've been able to understand it just fine. I can't say I know all of it, because he's written a very detailed and very vibrant world, but he's on the level of detail and vocab dump as Tolkien. So it's quite the load to take, but it's really, really good. It's so good.
All right. Yeah. I don't know. I might have to get back into reading at some point now that, well, I don't know, maybe over holiday break, but yeah.
Yeah, man. Cool. Audiobooks are a great addition to reading.
I don't know. I have a hard time with audiobooks because I need to be able to. My focus drifts often enough.
Yeah.
That I really would rather have it in front of me so I can go back if I drifted. I mean, a good book will captivate me, but audio is never quite the same way.
I agree. Well, that's why it's only a secondary supplement for me. I used to use it during when I was playing Civ 5, but this book is so dense that I have to focus on it alone. It deals a lot with philosophy, a huge amount with philosophy, specifically the ancients. It's a sci-fi book, and it deals a lot with the ancients, specifically Plato, and yeah. So it's great to get my philosophical parts, tickled,
Yeah.
without actually having to do philosophical work. So
That's cool. Sorry, and the name of that book again is
Anathem, Anathem. From it's the alteration of anathema by Neil Stevenson.
Now you're saying just the title is an alteration of that word, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So the word, quote, Anathem, unquote. So
I thought at first you were saying that this was some kind of like second book that was an alteration of a previous book, and I wasn't sure because
No.
I'd heard that word before, but I was just confused. I chalked that up to my mistake.
I just don't know if I'm saying the word right.
Right. Yeah.
Without the A at the end.
I suppose we'll have a link in the description, so
Yeah,
people can always check that out.
The only other things, I don't have the attention span with my pain to do much else. So I've been trying to watch stuff, and I've been watching Black Butler, which I was hoping was going to be this dark. I mean, it's set in Victorian England, and I was hoping it was going to be super dark. But it's. I was hoping I was going to accept dark with smattering, like splashes here and there of silly.
Right.
Right. But it's the inverse. So it's silly with splashes of dark. The dark parts are brilliant. I love the dark parts. But I have to give it like a 3 out of 5, and I'm halfway through the series. That being said, I've watched half of the 26 episodes in one day.
Well, yeah.
I'm really enjoying the story. Is this lord? Spoilers here, guys. So if you don't want to hear about Black Butler, you better turn away. But the story is basically this kid dies, and you see this right in the first episode. Kid dies dead, and makes a deal with some kind of dark entity. And you find out in the first episode that this demon thing is his butler and protector. So he sold his soul and got this butler protector guy, and he works as Queen Victoria's kind of ultra black hat cleaning guy. So if there's some problem going on, he has to just clean it and make it go away.
Right. Is this anime?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was really confused at first
Yeah, I should have made that clear.
because I was thinking of the first thing that jumped into my head was Black's Books,
That sounds familiar.
which is a British comedy show that is totally unrelated to anything that you just said. But except for the part where you said it was set in, Victorian England.
Right.
And so I was really, really confused. I had very conflicting pictures in my head, we'll say.
Would you sell your soul for anything?
Would I sell my soul for anything? Huh.
This is a question I've pondered for 12 years now, more than any other question, I think.
I mean, it's hard to. I think probably the only thing I would really consider doing it for is the continuation of my life, similar to the situation that kid was in.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I felt I died before my time, to the extent that quote unquote my time means anything, I think that's probably the only thing. Because, or at least something of similar, like that's the sort of standard I would be comparing to.
Oh, so that's the minimum thing you would require.
I would think so, yeah. And so potentially like my life or the life of someone close to me who I care deeply about. Something like that, I think, is what it would have to be, minimum.
That's interesting.
Why? Where do you think your bar might be?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all?
Nothing at all. No. I would not sacrifice my soul for any loved one, for myself, for anything. Nothing. Not because it's not, like, if I was to choose one, it wouldn't be worth it. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be a right thing to do.
Yes.
You know, or that I don't love my loved ones. I clearly do, but I can't justify the sacrifice of one for another. Because if the situation was inverse, for example, I could never be happy. Like, I might have moments of happiness, but I would never have anything but a horrible life for, like, ever. And I would end up hating the person that I once cared for.
Right.
And everyone's kind of worth one anyway. You know what I mean? It's plus, man, I don't want to have to thank that kind of thing.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Faust kind of puts this sharper point on it, which I think is interesting. He says, is there a single moment worth selling your soul for? And he ineptly, as far as I understand, I haven't read it, it's still on very close to my top of my list to read, very ineptly argues against selling your soul. From what I understand, like, the Romantics feel he made a better argument for selling your soul. But I'm speaking secondhand on that one.
Yeah, I have no knowledge of it myself.
So,
and yeah, it becomes such a complicated issue because at a certain point, I mean, even to really answer the question, you have to cover so much ground to define the soul and what it really means to have sold it, or what purpose it serves. Because I think under certain definitions of the soul, as I understand them, I would never sell it, because to sell it is to essentially, it would be the same as death. And so I certainly wouldn't sell it to save my own life. I mean, I guess maybe I could see myself selling it to save someone else's, but I think I agree with you in that if it were to come to that, it would have to be on the understanding that person could never know.
That's a very good caveat.
Because the guilt of knowing, like, because outside of just like, oh my God, this person who I care for greatly has given up everything for me, and I've now lost that person, being so difficult. But then the future going concern of, like, not to be too silly about it, but even just like, you know, this, like, the person I loved the most gave their soul so that I could live, and I'm just sitting here masturbating. Like, like what could you possibly enjoy after that? You know,
that's a very, very good
if flippant point.
Very good point, and actually, it's a very important question.
Yeah.
Because I personally feel that all life activities, like in a grand, message written in the sky sense, meaning of life sense, are equivalent. And of course, we need to bracket God and all that. Just the concept that there is a place of damnation, and that we have an eternal soul. You know what I mean? And other than if we don't muddy our waters here too much with supernatural beings, excuse me. I don't know if it changes my equation in assessing the value of everyday activity. You know what I mean?
So, can you explain that a little bit more? I'm maybe
Yeah,
not sure
absolutely.
I understand.
So I have a very contrary, very different view than most people. If and I don't want to insult anybody, but if I was to say become a doctor or a saint or a Buddhist, enlightened Buddhist monk, or if I just stayed, if I was homeless or and masturbated all day, like I think of those vocations, scare quotes here, vocations,
Right.
As being literally equal in worth, not because. Because all human actions are literally equal to worth. Like, it's good to stop suffering, but me saving someone's life is just as important, all things being equal, as me making food, or touching myself, or wiping my bum, or checking the mail. There are no big or small things in life. They're all equal, all literally equal, by definition, in my opinion. So, like, I don't know if that equation changes if, when we add all this new information about someone selling their soul for me, for example, or I sell my soul for someone else.
Right. But then I think that starts to get into that bracketed territory you were talking about, where there's something beyond just human action and something greater than just one's life. I think is the implication there.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because, like, I think, okay, so I mean, I guess the question then is, if someone, say, pushed you out of the way of an oncoming car and was then killed by the car, right? And so you know, and again, it's the same super important person to you doing that. Is that different from them selling their soul in a separate transaction?
It's a fair question, and I don't have an answer at the moment, unfortunately.
Because I think that's the question that delineates whether selling one's soul fits into that bracketed territory or whether it fits into the sort of general territory that we're talking about.
Well, we could make this as sparse or as complicated of a landscape as we want.
Sure.
But it does at least open the door saying there's at least damnation. So if there's at least one thing that damns you, is there more things that damn you?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So you're very right.
Yeah, but that's a good question. I would like to probe this a little bit more in terms of the larger point you're making about all human action being sort of so I want to make sure I phrase this right. Is it equal worth or value?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. So what would you say about a situation where you have a clear choice to either say, improve the life of someone else or touch yourself? Like, just, I mean, I know it's a bit absurd, but
No. I'm not laughing about that.
like, at the point, at the point where events, you choose one or the other. Like, are there moral judgments to be made there?
Yes, there are moral judgments. I don't want to make this sound as if I'm referring to ethical claims here.
Okay.
What I mean, it's an answer to what is a life of value. Like, what is a good life? That's the question I'm answering with. All human actions are equal.
Okay, and you said... oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So there is no... Yeah, I was about to actually further or add more to the conversation, but I don't want to do that quite yet. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, so essentially you're drawing a line between ethical judgments of actions and this sort of larger value judgment of one's life?
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Because I guess certainly, the thing that immediately pops into my head is that those two things are, if not, not exactly the same, but largely related. But maybe that's just a particular view that I have with assumptions I'm not realizing.
I think they're largely related, but I don't think they're part and parcel. Although I don't exactly have an argument or anything ready for why they are separate. They feel separate, though. We let's say we have a surgeon, a complete sadist, a complete horrible individual, and let's say all of his horribleness was internal, except for his sexual glee for performing his admittedly respectable life-saving job. And let's say that every time he performs his job, he significantly improves or even saves a life every single time he works his job, every time, without fail.
Right.
Can we say that those good actions or his bad actions, what do we do with that? What do we do with that? Is his life of value to the surgeon who has no emotional attachment and let's say he even did an equally good job? Are we going to say the admittedly incredibly scary human being sadist, is that person better or worse than the other one?
So I guess that fundamentally is a question of whether you judge one's outcomes or one's sort of absolute state, if that makes sense, right? Like if value is judged by what actually happens as opposed to what could happen, because I think the thing with the sadist part is that, well, he really enjoys people being injured, and that could lead to him doing things to injure people to produce that pleasure. But as a surgeon, he has this impeccable record of saving people and doing good. And so it's a question of whether you think it's more important that his actual actions produce good outcomes, or whether his personality could produce bad outcomes. Well, I guess it is still about outcomes either way.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see if there are things we can use to pry apart ethics and like a good life. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm succeeding or not, but that's what I'm trying to do with that example.
Right.
So I was just trying to give an example of a good or bad action, not just prima facie good or bad action.
Right.
Which is hard on the spot.
Sure. I do not envy you in that task. I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting question, certainly. And maybe, I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else to say about it at this point. I think it's going to take some thinking.
Yeah, it does. Dude, doing, unless it's a very finite point that's being talked about, doing any kind of philosophy via dialogue is incredibly difficult.
Yeah. It's hard to keep it all in your head.
I don't even know how it's even possible. But there's a good reason why I'm not in grad school for philosophy.
Sure, yeah. Well, and actually, no, it's funny you mentioned that, because I would say that sort of ability is the very thing that does separate the undergraduate from the graduate level. Like one of the big things I was struggling with, and that also found resolution this week, I think, in a pretty good way, was I was working on a group project where we have to design a study that includes a lab experiment and a field survey about a particular communication topic related to driver safety. And the process of going in and very carefully laying out, okay, here are the theoretical justifications that we're using to look at the topic that we want to look at, and taking a laboratory experiment and making sure that you are very carefully having to use people, but also are, obviously ethically managing the situation, and then just making sure that you can reasonably say you're only manipulating the thing you're trying to manipulate and see what outcomes happen. And it becomes this hugely complex endeavor. And yeah, being able to map it all out and keep it straight in your head is very important. Or also just being able to take that and lay it out very clearly in writing for reference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is also huge.
Like, I can't imagine defending a thesis in front of a committee of people who are years in advance of me, because not only do you have to have everything in your head correctly, you have to dance and deal with questions without losing the tune. So
yeah, there's a very specific thing that is the sort of performance in front of a committee of individuals who are way more experienced and settled in their academic minds than you are, still developing.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about stuff and no, that's not. I retract that statement. Never mind. Forget about that.
I
was about to make a claim that was completely untrue, and I was like, oh wait, that's not true at all.
Oh, I don't know. I was gonna say, it's easy to talk. It's hard to talk well and coherently.
So what are we going to watch next week?
Yes, I think it's about time we got into that. Contrary to what I had suggested at the end of last week's episode, we actually realized it makes far more sense to involve or to allow you, dear listeners, to hear our discussion and thus prepare for the viewing of a film or TV show episode for next week and weeks afterwards.
Mm-hmm. I propose. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Damn it.
No, go ahead. We are lacking so many extra cues in this speaking context that it's a lot harder to tell when someone's about to say something.
Right. I propose one thing. I propose that.
Be it resolved that.
I think. Laughing hurts.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. That's why I'm making like the one sound chuckle thing so much. I have plenty of series that I would like you to see, that I think would be great. I also have series that I want to see, that I think would be great. There seems to be something extremely appealing, however, to watching movies and alternating either one. Like, instead of trying to make it a weekly negotiation, it's just whoever's doing the intro picks the movie that week, and then the next week it's the other person.
Right.
And we don't have to do this forever. We could go just set an arbitrary number. We could do that, and let's say 3. Just pick a number out of my head, and 1. As long as everyone gets equal picks, then we figure out, well, what are we going to do now?
So it really should be an even number, not an odd number.
No, because it still keeps. No. Because it means that there's a total of 6 movies being talked about. See, each person gets 3 picks, so 6 movies.
Right.
As long as everyone gets equal amounts.
Right, whatever.
Of movies picked.
I know that what you're trying to get at. Generally, we can figure out specifics, but actually, the thing I was going to say at the beginning was very similar to the point you were making, which is that I think we should focus, at least for the initial run of this, that I think we should focus on movies first.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's a much more, creates a back and forth where, I pick one week, you pick the other week, and so on and so forth, or vice versa. Which I think would be good. And then maybe down the line a bit, we both come to some separate agreement about, let's watch this show. And then we would do some episodes of that and maybe break that up with a movie or two or something.
Yep, absolutely.
But I think movies are the easiest sort of currency to work with originally.
Especially in how fickle I am. Like, if you'll never know what kind of mood I'm in. Mm-hmm. I'll watch anything. Okay, I don't want to put any limits on this. I'll watch anything.
Right.
My only request is no, and this is a very specific bracket of movies.
Okay.
No torture porn.
Oh yeah. Well, what, me? You think I would suggest that?
No. I was almost not even going to bring it up, just because I don't want to put any. I want to leave it completely wide open for any movie whatsoever. So yeah. Even if I will hate it, I will watch any movie and give it an honest assessment.
That's fair, and I will. I pledge that I will do the same.
Okay, and in return to that courtesy, I will try not to make it too bloody.
Well, yeah, I would say this: if we're going to commit ourselves to this, let's not be cheeky assholes and suggest movies that the other person would somehow find particularly, dissatisfying.
Right. Well, see, the reason this came to mind is not because I was going to be an ass, a cheeky butt, but like, there's a movie that I think you would love, mm-hmm. aside from the blood, and it's one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. It's made by Joss Whedon.
Oh, Cabin in the Woods.
Exactly. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's one of the best.
I've heard of it, and I actually fairly recently happened to see a snippet of it, which I didn't realize was from it. That makes me think that, I think if I forced myself to do it, I might get something good out of it.
It's fantastic because it doesn't take it doesn't take itself too seriously, mm-hmm. yet it still pulls off a serious movie. It's like the rest of Joss Whedon's stuff.
Right.
So it's brilliant. But yeah, I'm not going to pick that first thing.
Okay.
So
and I'm.
It's your pick first. So do you have anything that you want to see?
We're just going to say that that's the way it's going.
Well, I think that might be the easiest way of remembering, since I'm forgetful and you're busy.
Okay, sure. Hold on. Actually, I'm probably hear me typing here. I'm trying to look up on IMDb. So I went through my Netflix list and pulled up. I think this is okay. A few different options of stuff I was thinking of watching, because one of the things that I think I've mentioned before on this show is that I have not seen a lot of movies that I probably quote-unquote should have seen. Things that I would like or would find interesting, that or just these sort of classics in some shape or form that just haven't seen.
Yeah, so, I've seen a truly obscene number of movies. Like a really vast number of movies.
So yeah, there might be some things in here that you would go like, oh, I've seen that and whatever, but...
I don't mind seeing something I've seen before.
Sure. All right, cool. Well then, so there are sort of a couple groups of movies that I have here. Really, it's the ones that, like, films I know I should have seen at some point, and actually, Asian action movies.
Very cool.
Including potentially some sort of classic kung fu, but not necessarily in this instance. So I've got about 7 or 8 options here. I guess I think I could reasonably narrow that down to 4, maybe 3.
Okay.
Actually, I would say definitely the one example of and certainly a more modern Asian sort of action movie would be Ip Man from 2008.
Yep, absolutely. I know that.
Which I remember hearing about, and supposed to be very good. And I've never really watched any movie of this type before, so I'm very interested to pursue it because there are definitely elements of it that seem very interesting, and certainly I'm totally down to watch some kick-ass choreography.
I'm a huge fan of Wuxia movies, which is Ip Man, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Okay, that's right. I have
and
seen
older stuff. And
I had seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
those are even specifically
Right,
in a
yeah.
set of movies called Wuxia movies, or
Okay.
Martial Hero, I believe it translates as.
Oh, that makes sense.
So
So
I'll watch anything.
So Ip Man is on my list. That's one that I've put up there. I think. Okay, the other one that I want to put on the list is Reservoir Dogs, because I've seen, especially more recently, too many references to that film to have never seen it, and I do enjoy some amount of Quentin Tarantino and the style that he does. Like, I mean, I love Pulp Fiction, because it's just a great movie, even if it is, well, pulpy. So I would love to see Reservoir Dogs in that regard, because it's another one of those films that I really should have seen and just haven't yet. And then, the third one. I've got a couple. Yeah, I think I've got about 3 movies that would fit that slot. That
You gotta pick one.
I'm not sure of. Yeah. All
I mean,
right,
we could.
I'll just do this.
You don't need to pick them all right now. Just pick one movie for next week.
Oh, sure. But I'm just saying, like, I just want to sort of cover some of the gambit here. Another movie that I'd like to see is Submarine, which was from 4 years ago. It was directed by Richard Ayoade, who was from the IT Crowd. Very funny individual, very interesting. And it was this little independent film that actually the soundtrack was done by Alex Turner of Arctic Monkeys, which is how I initially heard about it. And it's about, well, the short summary on Netflix. A teenager has 2 big ambitions: to save his parents' marriage via carefully plotted intervention, and to lose his virginity before his next birthday. It is apparently a very interesting and heartfelt little film about adolescence and coming to terms with big things like that. So I'd like to see it because I think it would be interesting. But in talking about these 3 films, I think the one I really want to watch is Ip Man.
Done.
So, yeah.
All right. So we will be watching Ip Man for next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Man, I'm glad this was so easy.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be pretty. I think that'll make things a lot simpler going forward. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know. Is there anything else we want to cover?
I wish that movie. I wish I didn't have to know something about the movie to choose it. I wish there was an omniscient.
Mm-hmm.
Or no.
Omniscient seems fits, I think, if I understand what you're getting at correctly.
I rather a perfectly competent computer.
Right.
Like it won't flaw in what I'm saying. And let's say it has a way better interface than Netflix. Let's say I just keep rating stuff, right?
Sure.
Like over and over, I rate, and then say I want a movie. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know its title. anything.
Right. You just wanted to present you with a film, and then you just watch it
based on certain criteria. But
Yeah.
so it needs to be able to understand my specific language, like Devin's specific language.
Well, that's okay. As a fellow human being who struggles with doing that, that's a lost cause if you're looking at a computer, my friend.
Oh yeah, I this is some god. I'm envisioning some god machine, because not only like does it have to be able to do all that, it needs to be able to then, in addition, show me that movie, and then in addition, be able to say, well, I want something outside of my normal parameters, but only 9% outside of my normal parameters.
You are a dreamer.
Oh yeah, I would fucking love that kind of machine.
Of course. That sounds fantastic, but it doesn't exist and won't for some time.
It won't in my lifetime.
No, I think if you take care of yourself, it could happen in your lifetime.
Do you know that Sloan and Kettering have this machine that they're working on? It's a completely automated doctor that is working to be able to understand and respond in like language.
Right.
And I'm so excited for a future where I don't have to deal with doctors who peg me as an addict, and then
Right, yeah.
That was the thing I didn't talk about. I'm sorry to keep this podcast going, but that's the thing I didn't talk about. Like,
right.
I'll save it for some next time.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, because I don't want to keep you. I don't know what you're doing, so
I'll leave that up to you. But
like one of the hardest things, because since it's bothering me,
go for it.
is about being an addict. And just to clear this up, when I say an addict, I mean someone with the psychological and neurological disease of addiction. It doesn't matter what substance. Like for right now, I'm an active alcoholic, but my meth addiction has gone into remission. That's what it says in my medical file.
Right.
I'm a mid-stage alcoholic. So I want to be able to go. I wish I could go to a doctor and say, I don't want pain meds, but I'm in the worst pain of my life, which is what was happening with my stomach, my side. That was literally the worst pain I've ever experienced, other than my first migraine. And say, I have a 9 on the pain scale. I don't want pain meds unless you want to give them to me. What I want to know is, am I going to be okay? What do I need to know? This happened X amount of time outside of my drinking. Is it still likely to be my drinking as opposed to something else? I don't want to have to. I don't lie to doctors. I don't. But I don't want to have to ask myself, should I lie to the doctor to get accurate medical care?
Right.
And it really is a matter of a question every single time that I go into an emergency room. Every single time. Do I need to fake not being an addict to get accurate medical care? And it's awful.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's a downer.
So, yeah. Fantastic.
I should have waited. I apologize.
Whatever. Fuck it. Who cares?
But it's a thing that this country needs to talk about. I mean,
yeah.
And it's an important and complicated conversation.
Yeah, and it's a deeply human issue. It is just a sort of fundamental flaw, I guess, in the way that we deal with things, is that it's always colored by other contexts, and it's hard to let go of that, even in something as important for that as medicine.
The thing that makes it even worse is that it's not even necessarily it's definitely not out of line for them. Because it's not out of line. I'm not some saint, but it's definitely much more likely. I will never med seek, but they should assume that an addict is going to med seek. I can't even blame them, and that's also what makes it frustrating. Yeah. So.
All right. Well. I guess
Fantastic.
On that melancholy note.
Yeah.
What do we got to listen to here?
MDK with Waves outro.
All right. Well, I guess that's it.
Yep. Take care, guys.
Bye. This has been the world's worst podcast.
Bye.